fascinating that during our evaluation period, the early dating stage, we're learning about ourselves as much as the other person. We're learning what we can tolerate, also what other people can tolerate about us. We don't always think about people have to make adjustments for us. We always, in the modern world, we always think of people have to adjust to who we are. But there are things that we have to give and take with other people. Most married couples that have been married for like 30 plus years who are happy, quotes, who are happy, versus the ones that are just tolerating each other. The ones that are happy, they always tell me it's a give and take. And that give and take, I think a lot of us young adults don't really know of because we mostly won't take. We don't want to give anything. In some cases, we won't even give our real numbers in social media out because we don't want to actually talk to anyone, and we just want the person to stop talking to us because we're trying to stay in church or whatever it is. We just want to be ourselves. We don't want to, in the actual relationship, we don't want to give up any ground. We want to basically be the kings and queens of our castle. But then suddenly, when you start, giving some ground for communication, for understanding, suddenly it gets better. I've seen that because I've seen friends who have gotten married deal with that. They found people who can take who they are. They like their personality, the faults and all. And I think when we're doing the dating period, I think subconsciously we're trying to kick the people away. In a sense, we're like, oh, let me find one good flaw so I can kick this person away because this person's not perfect. Let me find one good flaw. But then what happens is at some point we actually find a person who has a flaw that we were willing to tolerate, because what we can take from a person, other people may not be able to take. But maybe how we came up, how God showed us how to do things. When we find that right person, their faults are mended sometimes by how our personalities are. So we kind of help each other in that way.
So our next question is going to be a topic that I know we talk about a lot in church. And what does unequally yoked really mean to you? And how does that really go with, I guess, dating as a Christian as well?
Interesting. So, great question. When I heard about the concept, I was really young. I was probably 12, going on 13. And for the life of me, when I heard it, all I would think about is eggs, this yolk thing. That's all I would think about, eggs, right? Until I found out that this whole yolk system happened between two strong animals that would join by the neck with this sort of wood that will bind them together for them to do work together. And I found it really beautiful because being yoked is actually for partnership. Being yoked is actually to progress towards a particular task or goal. And being yoked, the both animals had to have similar body mass, similar strength and agility, and they had to be similar in nature. So you couldn't put a pig and a donkey being yoked together. They had to be similar, right? And if we understand this concept in farming, we could understand this concept for life. And being equally yoked goes a whole different dimension when you're talking about the Christian. Because equally suggests an equation, right? That something needs to balance off. We need to, as you said earlier on, Reggie, there's a give and take. There needs to be something equal, and there needs to be a common denominator, which is the scriptures. That's the script we live by. So for the Christian, they live on these Christian principles. But the world, when they say, are we equally yoked? They might say something like, do we connect soul to soul? But we know that there's something totally different, because when you yoke yourself with someone, you are actually signing a contract to say, you and I are equal. You and I have similar beliefs. You and I have similar values, principles that we live by. And you and I are going to work together, be yoked together um, to complete a certain task. And if these animals, if one animal went left and the other animal went right, they would actually be hurting each other at the neck. They would actually make the task even harder. So I think for the Christian, there needs to be a common denominator that we are using the scripture to guide our lives. And there needs to be this concept that we are partnering to get something done. So yeah, that's what comes to mind for me. And I'm so happy I am over the egg analogy, because I didn't know why why you keep on coming up in my mind. But yeah, that's a beautiful question, and that's my take on it.
Well, I like a good egg scramble with some extra cheese and some peppers, and it's really, it makes really good breakfast. But no, Jacqueline, I you know, that's one question that comes up in my mind a lot, as far as being equally yoked with somebody or not, because we live in a world full of many distinctions, and we run into many different backgrounds, many different people. Even within your home church, you run into people who don't necessarily think how you think. In the same church, like not just denominational speaking, I mean the same body, you may run into someone who's pro-choice, someone who is not pro-choice, someone who wants gun legislation, someone who does not want gun legislation. And with all these different differences and idiosyncrasies, at some point, love may come into play, and you may find yourself falling in love with a person you politically disagree with. But at the same time, even though you may have feelings for that person, are you guys equally yoked? Because this person could be, they could bring you down a path you don't want to go into. King Solomon, he had a lot of wives that totally went against his beliefs, and they led him to do a lot of crazy things. And the thought could be that, is your love greater than the person's differences? And sometimes it just doesn't work out, because as much as you may care for somebody, that person may be in a path that's going detrimental to your path. Like Candace mentioned about the two animals have to be similar or they can hurt each other. Well, if you put a bull or ox on one side and a small dog on the other side, like a Chihuahua, they wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. You wouldn't go anywhere. If anything, the bull will pull you into the other direction, and the Chihuahua will just follow along helplessly. And we are not trying to be Chihuahuas in relationships. We want to be another ox. We want to be able to say, I don't agree with this. It's not what I want. I don't think this is a Christian thing to do, the right thing to do, whatever. We don't want to just be pulled along because someone else is different than us. We don't want their difference to basically change our own direction. We want their difference to maybe help temper who we are, like how fire can temper different materials like metals and whatever. We want to be refined, want to get better, become stronger. But what we don't want is to have someone come in to be like a coolant with a tempering flame. If you ever watch like Forged by Fire on the History Channel, basically they take metals and they make weapons and swords and knives and whatever. But if you put a coolant in there, you'll destroy the work. So we don't want people to come in, but we don't want them to destroy who we are. They can help guide us places, but we don't want them to take away from what we become, what we've learned, things of that nature.
I know for me, like growing up, I remember always hearing, you need to find someone else in the church. If you don't, you guys will be unequally yoked. And so all of my dating experience had always been within the church for such a long time. And I always just assumed, well, they're within the church and we went to school together, we went to college together, we must be equally yoked. We must be, I mean, we're all the differences, there's no differences. And it's so funny because you go in with this concept that like, no, we both grew up wanting to find someone within the same religion and everything. And you realize like, no, that doesn't make it equally yoked. And that assumption of just having like that scripture basis is not always going to be enough. I think even how you use those scriptures or your spiritual life is actually what needs to be the basis of it and how it's revealed in your life. And so I think for me, I don't mind dating outside of religion for sure. Just because like, I believe everyone's spiritual, it's based off their relationship with God. But like you guys are talking about like your strengths and everything, you know, all they're compatible with me, you know. I don't want to be like this little flamingo and this guy's like a bull. I mean, like you're saying like a chihuahua. I'm like, yeah, I'm like this cute little flamingo right here. And this guy's just pulling me around. And you're thinking, yeah, I'm here for the ride. But like, wait, am I though? Or am I just being strangled and not being able to talk and voice myself? And so it's so important. And I think Candace painted such a beautiful analogy and like did such a good description of what a relationship needs to be and that concept and everything. And that biblical principle is of unequally yoked. That's such a great principle for sure. But don't just take it like at face value, like just because he's a Christian, we're gonna be good. Like we both love God. That's good enough for us. No, it's such a deeper meaning for sure. It's a good biblical principle that you can learn from and take on for like every relationship too, like friendships, for parents, and for everything. I really love actually that verse for partnerships, for everything. And I say just apply it to wherever you can, because you will definitely grow your relationships that way for sure.